This episode of the Red and White Podcast is brought to you by SaturdayMorningTailgate.com. Tailgate gear by folks who love tailgating. Check out SaturdayMorningTailgate.com and use the code REDWHITE15 for 15% off your entire purchase of all your tailgate gear. SaturdayMorningTailgate.com, REDWHITE15.
Keep it on the level. Keep it on the level. Keep it on the level. I'm climbing up the. Keep it on the level. Keep it on the level. I'm climbing up the ladder while you in need of a shovel. I can do this all day. I can do this all night.
All right, Wolfpack fans, I'm back with another edition of the Red and White Podcast. I'm your host, Evan, here, recovering from a bourbon-soaked trip to Louisville. I gotta say, I was really impressed with the whole setup there. It's the first time for me having been to a game in Louisville. Had a great time. Had a great host. A guy we've had on here before, Biggest Biscuit. Big Cardinals fan. Hosted a hell of a tailgate for us, and we just had a real good time. Everybody there was really nice. I will say the caveat is they're really bad, so they had no other reason, nothing but to be nice to us. I mean, there was no reason for them not to be. And I think you find that a lot with a lot of places. But I could empathize a lot with them being 3-8 and going through what they're going through. We've all been there before, countless times. But it was a real good trip, man. I was really impressed with how similar it is to us in terms of kind of a tailgate culture, and the setup they have is really nice. The stadium, they put a bunch of money into that stadium. I guess all the pizza money and the illegal shoe money, but the outcome was awesome. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I know there didn't look like there was anybody there on TV, but it's so compact that it still sounded pretty loud, at least early on. When they were emotional and into the game. I highly recommend it. If anybody gets a chance to go, they should definitely do it. It's a fun time. It's a fun place. One of the coolest things that I saw was outside of the stadium. The stadium's built on its old train yard, which was cool in and of itself. But outside of the stadium, they have this line of cabooses. I don't know if there's like 10 or 20 cabooses, old cabooses connected together that they turned into tailgate areas. So if you have enough money, you can donate and get a caboose, and you can party in the caboose, and they have a deck on top of them, and it's right outside the stadium. I mean, it's really cool. It was a really cool setup, something I hadn't seen before. I'm not sure if I tweeted the picture or not, but it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. One thing I'll note, and it's kind of changed my position, and I've always wanted to, for some reason, write this up and kind of put together sort of a proposal for how NC State should end passouts. I've talked about it before, but going to Louisville and seeing, their facilities and the fact that they don't have passouts is a big sign when you walk in the stadium. If you leave, you're not coming back in. And I think that's kind of how it should be. I think, you start to place the emphasis on football as opposed to drinking and tailgating, whatever, which is fine. I mean, I enjoy both, but I would rather see more people in the stadium. And I get it, like the facilities at State are not great. The concessions are not great. They probably need more bathrooms and those sorts of things. But, regarding the beer sales and the money it can bring in, I know the studies have been done that's, it's like it helps curve the drinking problem because people aren't pounding before they come in and not sneaking liquor bottles in and all that jazz. But they just had cans of beer, and they sell it and pour it in a cup, and you walk away. I mean, and they had beer guys come up and down the aisles like a pro game, and you could get liquor drinks and whatever, and you could have a good time. And I'm sure they made a killing off it. And I think state needs to really consider doing that. And I get it's not going to be easy selling the no passouts, but I think that's exactly what you need to do is sell one. If you buy lifetime tickets, maybe you buy season tickets. Then maybe you buy a season pass out. There's some additional revenue there. All right, and then you give that sort of perk to people who buy season tickets, and you let them buy a pass out if they want to go back out. I think you'll probably have a 25% take up rate on that, or maybe even more. But that's just additional revenue, and that is just. I think that's how you start the process. I think that's how you get to the point where you can eliminate pass outs altogether. That's how I see it. And I think you look at you go to a place like Louisville and you kind of see the impact that it has on the atmosphere and just the emphasis on football and how that's kind of affected everything. And the revenue, right? I mean, you look at the revenue that's generated, and this doesn't seem to be a strong support against it, or to not do it. I think we should start pushing that conversation more and having that conversation more often. I think it does have an impact, and I think it's more than just the revenue. I think it helps culturally define your program. You keep people in the stadium, and you make it about the football game. I would love to, man. All my friends go out at halftime. Every once in a while I do, but for the most part I'm sitting there by myself. And I know I'm not the only one. There's other people around that in the same boat. And then there's no real good way to get people back in. A lot of people have to walk so far to get to back to their tailgate, and then the desire to come back, it's not always there. So I think it's time to have that conversation. Now, I didn't want to make this about pass outs. That was just something I was thinking about while I was at the game. Highly recommend everybody going. Good place. Good people for the most part. Pack played well. I was happy with it. They kind of weathered the emotional storm. I was concerned that they fired Petrino and people rally around the new coach, but Louisville's pretty bad, and I think that just they beat themselves and all the things you don't want to do they were doing, and they just don't have it all. They don't have all the pieces. Now they have some talent there. There's some really good players. And I thought Malik Cunningham looked really good running the ball. He can't throw it further than 5 yards, but running the ball he was real good. Yeah. And I think the Pac did what they wanted to do. I liked that they were more aggressive. I think came out of halftime. It was like 17-something, 17-3 maybe. And they ran the double reverse flea flicker thing twice in a row. And it was open both times. And I'm just like, I was like, go for the kill shot. I thought it was perfect. I thought they didn't execute it great. Actually, if Jacoby Myers, he pitched the ball, and then if he makes that block on the guy coming up the middle, it gives Finley about 2 more seconds. There was no way within 40 yards of Harmon. He was just sitting in the end zone. But he didn't have enough time to get the play off, which I get, it's fine. But I like the play call. I like the play calls for the most part. They were aggressive. There wasn't too much of the old run inside zone, pass, punt, that we've seen this year. There's a little bit of it. But, for the most part, I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I think you get the ball into the hands of the playmakers. You get the ball in the hands of Harmon and Emezi and Myers, and let those guys do their thing. Something I noticed in this, another thing about the Louisville Stadium is their audio and video was fantastic. I mean, it was crystal clear audio. The video was on point. The replay guy didn't miss a replay. They replayed it multiple times. And they didn't play random promotions between all the TV timeouts. I mean, it was a really enjoyable experience. But the one thing I noticed while watching all those replays is, and I tweeted this out during the game, that all year I've been looking at why can't we run the ball, right? What's wrong? Why are we having such a hard time running? Even though Gillespie is not too far away from 1,000 yards, it just doesn't seem like they're having much success running the ball. And part of that I started to notice in the replay, it was not the offensive line. I think Gillespie's having a hard time finding the holes. I think if there's a little bit more patience, you'll see that there were some big holes there for him, especially the ones that he picked up some big chunk gains on. I mean, there were some substantial holes. I just remember seeing the one replay, and it was a couple times, where he got stuffed in the line, but if you look, one guy over to the left, there's a giant hole. And so I'm just guessing he doesn't have the best vision and, not capitalizing on. I think that's something you maybe take for granted with Naheem and, not having the depth at the running back position, is those true running backs that can see that and have that vision, which is so exciting about the guys they're bringing in next year. You have 2 true running backs that are just phenomenal players, and then put that on top of Ricky Person, and there's some potential there, and I'm looking forward to it. But you could definitely see that some of the holes were opening up, and he wasn't finding them. And at this point in the season, it is what it is. But it's kind of something to notice if you're watching a game this week, and you see him get stuffed. Check the replay or check a different angle and see if there is a hole there, and he just missed it, or maybe got gap assignment wrong or something. I don't know, but just keep an eye out for it. I thought it was interesting, kind of just to see that and see those plays develop. So some questions from the folks for next season. What do you think the odds of us having 1, a new defensive coordinator, 2, a new offensive coordinator, 3, both? I think that Doran. Well, I'm going to go back and read. There's a couple of questions all along the same lines. That one was fun. Fun back 5. Kevin Williamson, who will be in the new TC and how much turnovers are going to be in the staff, and then Tucker Blankenship. I know it was one drive against Ted Roof, head coach at Duke level competition, but the tiny taste we got of McHale is a different one. All right, so DC, OC, both. Who's going to be there next year? Dorn's done a fantastic job of keeping the staff together. The only time he's lost coaches have been for step up jobs. So Nielsen to the Saints. I mean, Jesus, that's a great job. And, Canada went to, well, he was kind of pushed out. He went to Pitt and then LSU. You just don't lose that many. He doesn't lose that many coaches. I think he does a good job of keeping them. I hope he keeps. There's quite a few guys that we all think are very important. And I think he's doing a good job of keeping everybody happy and keeping them to a point where they're probably not looking around. And you can't hate if a guy gets interest from another school for a higher position. And I think you might see some of that with Drink. I know a lot of people question that, but if you look at the stats, they are, Pack's really good on paper, offensively. Let's see if I can pull up some of these stats. So I don't expect too much turnover there. I do think he's going to have to address Huxtable and Roof, for that matter, in that position. I mean, I think you see him bringing in Ted Roof as kind of a way to address, hey, we need help on the defensive position. He knows that it's not right. I mean, that's kind of what I took from it. But he needs to push it a little more, in my opinion. I think we need to see a change there, to be honest. We're just not getting what we should out of the defense. And everybody's like, oh, well, you're young at certain positions, whatever. It happens. It's the same thing every year, right? Secondary's bad, whatever. I mean, I don't care how young you are. You have to show some progression. You have to be able to scheme around it to a degree. I find it hard to believe that you look at some of these teams that are having good season and you think that they have a better, have more talent on the defense. I think that's questionable, man. I couldn't get behind that. You'd have a hard time convincing me that it's just for a lack of talent that our defense is consistently poor. I think we have a lot of good young players, and I think they'll get better, but I think we need a better scheme as well. I hope, and I think we all hope, that there's some sort of change there. And I've met Huxtable. He's a really nice guy. I mean, you can see why a lot of the kids like him. And he, again, knows a lot of football, but I just don't agree with his scheme. And I think that's been his MO pretty much everywhere. You don't have to be I don't know what the right word is for it. You don't have to be a defense that just locks everybody down and nobody scores on, right? That's just not realistic. But you should be able to not give up these deep plays pretty much on demand. I mean, teams are dialing this up on demand, right? God, I mean, it's so frustrating to watch, and it hasn't changed. And I think that needs to change. That should change. I don't know, man. I think you can get by with giving up a lot of yards and those things, and and the term I hate the most because I hear so often is bend but don't break, because I don't think that's intentional by anybody, but keeping things in front of you, right? That's what they want to do. They don't want to give up big plays, but they keep giving up big plays. Every year, they're giving up big plays. And that's just not good, man. That needs to change. It really does. So, I don't know about, I don't know what's going to happen there. I have faith in Dorn being able to keep the guys he wants to keep, but I do think we need to make some changes. I don't think that's news to anybody. I really don't. I think everybody's kind of on the same page there. Here's a stat. Number 6 in passing offense. Number 7 nationally in third down conversion. Number 9 in red zone defense. Number 2 in sacks allowed. Number 11 in completion percentage. Number 19 nationally in time of possession. 25th nationally in total offense, 112th in rushing offense, 128th in passing yards allowed. I mean, those two right there kind of signal your issues. Now they're pretty good. Number 9 in red zone defense, number 10 nationally in sacks, number 16 nationally in rush defense. I mean, there's a lot of good things there, but those two areas are the ones that are plaguing us. Number 112 in rushing offense, 128 in passing yards allowed, and I would imagine that's probably not far off from passing touchdowns allowed. I mean, yeah, so that's disappointing. I would like to see some changes, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Tucker Blankenship. I know it was one drive against Ted Roof High School coaching at Duke level competition, but the tiny taste we got of McKay intrigued me. Kind of forgot what the offense Dorn really clearly wants can look like with a QB that can run. Feel like Drink will take advantage of his options more next year. And I think that's, I might have talked about it last week, where we're going to, when you have more talented true running backs, I think you might see a little bit more success from the very run-based offense that Drink wants to run. And I think the frustration there, and I know you look at the numbers like, hey, they pass 65% time or whatever it is. But it's not the point of passing versus running. It's getting it to your weapons and getting it to your playmakers. And, I think that was Canada's downfall, who routinely forgot you had Jalen Samuels on your team. And I think if with these young running backs, if they take to it, right, they're both coming in early, if they show out like we think they can, and like what their numbers they're putting up in high school are ridiculous. If they are as good as advertised, and you have 3 talented running backs and a quarterback that's mobile, because don't forget Leary's mobile too. I think you'll see a little bit more, RPOs and those sorts of things. It would be interesting to see the change, and I agree. I watched the end of that game, and I thought McKay looked good. He looked under control. Looked like he had some nice touch on some of the passes. I was happy with it. He had some speed and got out of the pocket and made something happen, and he looked good. And I think by all accounts, from the people who know the insiders, they all say that don't sleep on McKay. Don't just give the job to Leary. Like, McKay can play, and I'm a bit surprised by it, to be honest, but I'm happy to see it. I think it's great. I think the competition is going to be fantastic, and it's going to come down to who makes the smarter decisions and who doesn't turn the ball over. I think that was one thing you saw with McClendon and Finley competition is McClendon made too many mistakes, too many turnovers, and that was something I was concerned about when he was coming out of high school. And I know he played at West Mack, and they were awful, and all that jazz. But his numbers coming out of high school were like a 1-to-1 TD to INT ratio, and some of that is not having the right players. A lot of that is your decision making, and I think you can look at those numbers in high school as a direct correlation to their potential on the college level, and I think you're going to see that in the college level. Whoever makes the least amount of mistakes is going to win that job. It's going to be interesting to watch. I don't really have a dog in the fight. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I just want the best guy to play. That's it. And it's nice to have some options. We have 3 guys that could be the starting quarterback, and that's cool. I mean, that's really good. That's not like we've we've had in a long time. Wolf blood. Will we have a power outage during the middle of your broadcast also? I don't know. I hope not. Should have made the drive to Louisville, and you wouldn't have had a power outage. You would have been able to see the whole game. Ben Finley picked the state. Ryan Finley's little brother, 2020 quarterback. I think that's... I have no idea. I don't think I've seen any of his videos. I don't know anything about him, how he compares, any of that stuff. But what I do take away from it is that it's got to be a positive thing for the program that the Finleys think that highly of the coaching staff and the program and everything else about NC State football, that they would want their second son to come to NC State as well. I mean, I really think that's a really good sign for the state of things. That's at least how I take it. I mean, that makes you feel good that they're doing the right things, and it's not like the Phillip Rivers, Stephen Rivers thing. Man, who knows how good Ben Finley is, but I think that the fact that he's coming and that his parents want him to come, and it's all the way across the country, and he's going to have a ton of other options. It's a good thing for the program. It's a good sign for the program, and I'm happy for that. It's Carolina week, and rehashed over the years how much I hate Carolina. Really, just everything about them. I think it's a joke, and so I'm not going to go through all of that again. My question to you, though, and I saw this started happening, this conversation on Twitter. There's an article out there that says Mack Brown getting interest from UNC. So this is assuming they fire Fedora, which I still don't think is going to happen. Some of the old boosters want to bring Mack Brown back. So my question to you is, do you want UNC to be good? Do you want them to, be on par with us so that it raises the profile of the game, the rivalry and all that? And I jumped into the conversation that James Curl was having with Hoagie Smash and somebody else, and James said, I think if both teams are ranked, people will notice to a degree more than they do now. It'd be the same level of interest that we have when the two ranked rivals out west face each other. Not a ton, but more than nothing burger it is now. There are zero stakes. And while I understand that sentiment, I completely disagree. We've seen this in the past, and rarely does it benefit us. It always comes out where UNC is going to be, gets the good pub and gets the sleeping giant tag and all that other crap. There's no benefit in there to us. I would much rather kick their ass every year, make it a non-game, make it something that just doesn't matter. Almost like how they see us in basketball, right? It's not high on their priority list. I would much rather have that, and us at the same time build a rivalry with Clemson. I think you want more attention. Is basically what you're trying to get, right? You're trying to get more notoriety, and I think that's how you do it. You don't build a rivalry with UNC. You build a rivalry with somebody who's good. And let's stoke those flames again, right? Let's bring back the importance of the Textile Bowl. So two really good teams. I think that would be a much better approach. I have no interest in seeing UNC get better. But give me your take on that. What do you think? Would you rather UNC be better and make the game more interesting, or do you agree with me and think that, screw them, let them wallow in their own misery, and let's make fun of their empty stadium while we're building our own program? That's how I take it. A couple other basketball notes. Pack won again a couple times. Convincingly. Hadn't really played anybody, so it's going to be interesting when they start getting into the good competition. But Jalen Leque signed his LOI. I was never really concerned with him going pro. If you read any of the scouting reports, he's really not a good shooter. And you're not going pro in today's NBA if you can't shoot. So, glad to have him. Supposed to be a superstar athlete. Just, and let him come and work on the shot. Oh, fantastic. Kind of guy that really fits into Keats' system. And I think it should be fun to watch in the next couple of years. Another basketball news just came out when I was putting my notes together. It was a story from Leque from News Observer about the latest Dennis Smith Jr. bribery thing. Apparently, the Brian Bowen case brought out another little nugget. In early 2015, on information and belief, defendant Rivers, this is Christopher Rivers of Adidas, had approved a bribe of $25,000 in order to secure Smith Jr.'s attendance at an Adidas-sponsored NC State. Rivers discussed this arrangement with defendant TJ Gasnola following a January 20th, 2015 event that they attended together. I don't think anybody cares about any of these stories anymore. I personally don't. I think this is all... It's all nonsense. I think it's very hypocritical of the NCAA. People are concerned, I guess, about sanctions and whatnot. It's like we were 4-8 in the ACC that year. Who gives a crap? What they're gonna dock us that season? There's two guys that are not here anymore, and by all accounts, it is the Adidas guys that are pushing money to these kids to go to these schools, and the other shoe companies. I'm doing it as well. Let's not kid ourselves. The question is going to become if documents and depositions from inside NC State have to come out, and then how complicit was Gottfried and Orlando Early and all these other guys, and did we know? And I think that's kind of the potential for trouble there, but I really could really give two shits about all this. And I think most people feel the same way. I think most people around the country feel the same way. It's interesting sort of to watch unravel, but the NCAA has basically been spineless, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. That's all I got for this week. Thanks to everybody who contributed. Short episode. However, everybody has a happy holiday. Good Thanksgiving. Make your way over to Chapel Hill. You can get tickets on StubHub for like $4. That's ridiculous. And have a good weekend. Eat a lot, and go to hell, Carolina. Go Pack.
Up the ladder while you in need of a shovel. I can do this all day, I can do this all night.